Hello everyone! Today I want to talk about the next two weapon kits, the NZAP 89 and Clash Blaster. Like with the 96 and Crack-On video, I will have to start by covering a bit of the new special and going over that a bit later. For future kit videos, I will probably not talk about it as much since I'm doing it here, we'll just go over the kits themselves, especially if they involve specials we already have in the game. But anyway, to start, we have the NZAP 89. Finally getting this version back, and it's going to be a very different playstyle from the original that I'm quite looking forward to. Now, both are obviously going to be support NZAPs, but the current 85 we have leans much more aggressively, playing for Tacticooler and using Cooler to be able to kind of run in and be very aggressive and support other aggressive comps. The 89, on the other hand, is paired with Autobomb and the brand new Super Chump special. And so because of that, it's going to be playing more of a displacement style. It'll be very similar to how 89 played in Splatoon 2, or like how T-Tech played. Now, in Splatoon 2, K-Shot basically invalidated 89 for the most part, even though both were very good because they were similar. But in this game, Tri-Strike and Super Chump have differences in how they are used, and so we might be seeing one over the other, especially if it's another 190p weapon, which wouldn't surprise me because they're making a lot of the shooters that. For now, though, we have Autobomb as a sub-weapon, which is very underused, and honestly is a sub that I think gets a little bit too much flack. It is a very cheap and reliable bomb. It only takes 55%, the location it provides has gotten more powerful in this game, and even if the explosion radius is very small, it does still do a good job of scouting, locating, painting, etc., and won't take up much of the NZAP's ink tank. Not that it's a very ink-hungry main weapon, but it's definitely there. Still though, of course, weaker than Splat Bomb, and the main weapon is definitely weaker than T-Tech. So the difference is it worth having Super Chump over Tri-Strike with how valuable Tri-Strike is right now? It's still in a pretty good spot and will only get better as long as HP specials are still in the meta. So, the reason I did not cover Super Chump in its own video like I did with Kraken is because we know a lot less of this. Mainly, we don't know the damage of the bombs themselves, as well as the damage required to destroy them, which can make or break the special. There are a few things we do know, though. First of all, for the Super Chump special, it is a deployable. This will probably be very similar to Big Bubbler in the fact where you have to place it somewhere, and that limits it a bit. But the positive here is once you place it, it'll basically launch itself. I'm guessing that it has some form of set trajectory or aiming. It doesn't look like across the map range. But compared to Tri-Strike, this will launch and go off while you're perfectly free to move. They're not in any form of end lag while these land, and they have a delay before they explode. By the time these actually start going off, your NZAP's going to be in the fight and helping. And this is something very important with T-Tech. Because T-Tech with Tri-Strike, especially compared to also missiles for instance, you have to throw the strikes. Your real only way around this is to lob the strikes upward and try to fight with them there, and even then these are going to land far sooner. And so the main perk of Super Chump over Tri-Strike is going to be your ability to do a lot of team fighting with it altogether. The other thing that Super Chump supports is kind of similar to 85 in some sense, but more aggressive plays. You want to take advantage of the fact that there's so many Super Jump markers so spread out. If you have a normal player jumping in amidst these, maybe to a teammate who's sharked in or is hiding, it's going to be very difficult to tell if a player's there. Now, of course, someone will have to be there first, but if you think about it, you can just launch this Super Chump special where a teammate already is, just whoever's nearest the front line, and have another jump sneak their way in and fight. That can be really useful. But I think taking advantage of these markers as well as enemies shooting the bombs is going to be very important. Now, even if these are easily breakable, it should still be fine, because it's going to take time to shoot this many of them, even if you, are able to. It's just a lot of bombs. The pain it puts out is probably going to be a little bit worse than Tri-Strike, but it's going to be exploding more simultaneously, and again, you'll have a player painting during it, so it could be useful on zones. I still think it's going to be mostly displacement based, but you could see a bit of the bomb launcher in there. So that's a lot of just random words. So, TLDR, is it better than Tri-Strike or not? We don't know. We don't know until we get the damage numbers. But it does have unique utility compared to it that I think will be useful for Zap. Honestly, I think it might have been better if it was on T-Tech because of the better main weapon, but Zap is still fast and able to fight with it, so depending on the comp you do, I can see it being useful. But NZAP players are going to be NZAP players are going to have to go in and fight with the special very well compared to sitting back and spamming it. And so being able to switch to aggressive when your special goes off is going to be important. So players who have played NZAP 85 and going with their Tacticooler are already going to be kind of used to this. But for traditional support, it's going to be something you're going to have to get a bit more used to. Outside of that is the Clash Blaster. Now, I'll start with the obvious part, which is Clash Blaster. Its kit is not great. Mainly, Curling Bomb just isn't that good on a blaster. The main problem with curling on any blaster that isn't rapid, really, is it needs more than just a way to walk forward. It needs a get-off-me tool to keep enemies away from you. It needs a poke tool to move enemies at a distance. And it needs to be able to paint for special. Curling does not do a lot of it enough, and unless if it's buffed in some way, it's just going to be very mediocre for Clash, which unfortunately is one of the weaker main weapons in the game right now that also has another strong kit. The only utility it provides is, again, going to be involved with the special with Super Jump. Now, you're not going to be getting this often, and this is a displacement special, so it cannot be your primary displacement special weapon. You will need to have two of these, which isn't the worst downside in the world, but it's going to be a bit awkward. And on top of that, since this is at a distance, a Clash who's far up is going to need to back off a bit in order to pop and use this. It still can be used as a way to get the Clash in, but the Clash isn't going to output a high amount of them. It's going to have to be far away, so if it ever got the chance to get in any other way, it's going to have to move to do that. And it's just not the greatest synergy. I'd say the best thing for it is that these explosions can be played off of more easily, as the Clash can probably combo with them if they do minor damage. At the end of the day, though, I don't really see it. I think Zap will probably end up a high tier if the special is solid, and a mid tier if the special isn't. Though if it's a mid tier, it's going to be heavily outclassed, so that special needs to be good enough to see some form of use compared to T-Tech. However, Clash Blaster, I think, is probably just doomed. If the main weapon gets some form of buffs, the sub-weapon, or if the special weapon's incredibly overpowered, I could maybe see it. But even if the special were OP, I would just see people doing Zap more than Clash. It'll be a good solo queue weapon, it'll be fine there, it'll be fun, and it'll be a cool alternate playstyle for Clash Blaster users, but it's not going to be anything objectively meta-defining. Still though, I think it's better than the kits it's had in Splatoon 2 regardless. Curling Bomb being mixed with, I believe it was Missiles, is around on the same par as this, but at least this has a bit better synergy with the main weapon, whereas missiles were so important you needed something that could output a lot of it where it was awkward. In this game, I think the special and how the game is played will fit a bit better with Clash. So yeah, okay weapon, high tier weapon. So far, the kits are off to a pretty good start. Let's see what we get next.